Did Sony just leak the PS5 Pro? We've got updates on the new state of play, we've also got some rumored games that are going to be there, and finally, how long is Intel saying the PS5 shortage is going to last? Well, we're going to jump into it in today's PlayStation news. So one of the cooler things that Sony's been doing over the past few years is the whole state of play thing. I mean, if you look at these videos, it's really easy to just say, oh, these are direct ripoffs of Nintendo Directs, but they've kind of become their own thing because Sony really likes to focus on one piece of hardware or one specific game for some of them, and then other ones are huge showcases like the one we got a couple months ago. I've always kind of wondered what goes into the back-end process of getting a state of play together, and thankfully a leaker put out a whole list of checks that Sony goes through with each one. It's basically like a detailed step-by-step process of how a state of play goes from start to finish. Now, before I jump into it, all of this needs to be taken with a huge grain of salt, but after reading it and just working in video production, it seems pretty legit to me. So starting out at the beginning of a financial year, Sony goes out and says, all right, we're getting our calendar ready. Here is the 1 week window in which we will have a state of play at certain points throughout the financial year. I thought that was interesting because it kind of explains how over the summer there were rumors all the time of new state of plays popping up, but then they would always be within a 1 week-ish window of when the rumors said they were going to be. It's because Sony plans ahead for that. They pick perfect dates for their videos just to make sure they go up at the right time, because obviously it's pretty hard to predict how the year is going to go, right? You don't want to pinpoint a date, lock yourself into it, and then be stuck releasing a new video on the same day they show off Halo Infinite gameplay. You know what I mean? Now, at the beginning, Sony really wanted these games to be unannounced games like the stuff we see at Nintendo Directs, but over time they've loosened up on that, and they're really cool just doing like updates on games that we already know about. Maybe they'll have like an exclusive feature or a brand new trailer that you might not see anywhere else, but most of the time they want these games to be new things that are coming to the PS5, and I think that's cool. Obviously no one wants to sit around and watch a 30-minute event and see only games that they've already heard of, and that's kind of what we've gotten a few times, but that's only when they're focusing on huge games like Horizon Forbidden West or something like that. So when the actual state of play event is coming up, Sony gives themselves a 2-week lead time. They construct everything, get all the different videos and assets from all the different publishers, they put it together and send it out to all the publishers for approval, and then when it's ready to go, they upload it to the YouTube channel and then they do a premiere. They make it seem like it's live, but it's never really live. It's obviously just, you know, pre-recorded, pre-edited video. Now that makes a lot of sense to me too, because after these events, the trailers go up almost instantly. I remember the big showcase where they announced Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. The trailers for those games were individually up on the PlayStation channel pretty much right after the event ended, which makes sense because they gave themselves at least a 2-week lead time where all those videos were just sitting there ready to go, no minor changes needed. It's just kind of interesting because if you think back to that very first showcase for the PS5 where they announced all of the big PS5 games, there were a bunch of trailers that had weird info in them that turned out to be totally not correct. Like Demon's Souls, for example, said it was coming to PC. Now I still think it is going to come to PC, but at the time Sony had to say nope, this one is coming to PS5 exclusively, no PC there. But yeah, knowing that they're so far ahead on these types of things, it's kind of crazy how little actually leaks from them. We've seen stuff leak from state of plays before, but a lot of the time it honestly feels like stuff people are just guessing, and they're making good educated guesses, right? After we saw Horizon Forbidden West at a state of play, a lot of people were guessing that we would see God of War Ragnarok at one because they got Horizon out of the way. God of War Ragnarok is the next big PS5 exclusive. It's not that hard to guess that we'd be seeing it at a state of play, but you know, they do a pretty good job overall at actually having some surprises at these things, and seeing this leak, this document that kind of shows off the process of making them, and hearing that we're going to get updates on games we've already heard about with a few different announcements at this upcoming state of play, it's all just super interesting and super exciting. But speaking of leaks from this upcoming state of play, let's talk about some games that are rumored to be there, starting with Hogwarts Legacy. Now this game is crazy, right? We've seen a trailer for it that looked like it showed off a ton of the game. You saw all over Hogwarts, you saw a bunch of different creatures, you saw all the different houses. It looked like it was a pretty much done game. It didn't look like pre-production or anything like that. Obviously it went quiet because of all the stuff going on with J.K. Rowling, but then when it was approaching its 2021-ish release date, they delayed it till 2022. But the most bizarre thing is, we have not seen a single thing from Hogwarts Legacy since then, and people are really excited for this game. If you go and you look up what the most trending games are all the time, it's Hogwarts Hogwarts Legacy. I would really like to see what's going on with it. I want to know what they've been using this extra time to do with this game, because it looks awesome. Another game I could totally see showing up at this event is Gran Turismo 7. We know a beta is coming for that game because a few months ago at this point, Sony made an entire website where they let you put in your PlayStation Network ID and then they would give you a code for the beta, but now it just generates like zeros, random numbers that don't really unlock anything. But the website is set up, it's ready to go. Obviously the beta is not done yet, but this would be a good opportunity for them to say, hey, we're doing our new state of play, we've got Gran Turismo 7 here, this is one of the biggest upcoming PlayStation 5 games, oh, and you can go play the beta right now. Go check out this website we've had set up for a few months. There's two other games off the top of my head. One of them I think will show up there, and that's Gotham Knights. I think that game is really starting its marketing cycle now. I feel like PlayStation is a good fit for an Arkham game. I feel like we're probably going to see something from that there, because Warner Brothers, obviously with Hogwarts Legacy and other games they've shown off, likes doing stuff with PlayStation. Another game that I really want to see there that I'm still unsure on if it'll actually show up there is the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That is a game that's very interesting to me personally. I love the Suicide Squad. I like the idea of the Justice League being bad guys. I also like that it's a third-person shooter. It's basically ticking all the boxes for me, but I feel like, you know, we just saw another CGI trailer at DC Fandom, so if they were holding back any gameplay for a state of play, I feel like Sony is the one to go with there. They want to show off Rocksteady's new big game. You're gonna go with the premium console over on the PS5. But yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head of what we could see at the state of play. I'd love to hear some guesses from you though down in the comments below. And remember, if you want to stay PS ready, subscribe and set your notifications to all. So when it comes to the big shortage of everything cool like PS5s, Xbox Series X's, and graphics cards, there's always companies coming out and either saying, yep, we think we'll have it figured out within the next couple months, and then there's companies who say, yeah, we're gonna be waiting a long time. And one of those companies on the unfortunately bad end of that, saying we're gonna be waiting a long time, is Intel. So they just announced that incrementally they're getting better every quarter at meeting demand with their supply with all their chips, but they don't think they're actually going to catch up until 2023. Now thankfully Intel, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really provide any parts for the PS5, and AMD is the chip maker that's doing stuff for both the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and AMD actually has said multiple times that they think things are going to get better by 2022. The problem here is that the demand for the PS5 is just absolutely insane. Like, this is a PlayStation channel, you're gonna see this as PlayStation fanboying, but it's really not, because there's this stat you can always go back to. The PS5 is selling better at this point in time in its life cycle than the PS4 did back in its life cycle, and PS4s were able to be constructed a lot faster than PS5s. It's really hard to get a PS5 made right now. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. So the fact that Sony is able to keep up with the demand at least somewhat is pretty good. There's two frustrating aspects here. One, scalpers. We all know about scalpers. They're people who have bots figured out that let them buy like 9 PS5s at once from multiple different retailers on multiple different credit cards. They hoard them, they sell them for $750 to $1,000. That's nothing new, right? We all know about them. But we've also been hearing about this secret hoard of PS5s that Walmart has for some reason, and there's a TikTok going around of a huge warehouse just filled floor to ceiling with PS5s, because there was this huge conspiracy where Walmart workers were like hoarding the PS5s, taking them back so that they could sell them to their friends later, which is pretty scummy if you ask me. And there are people who ordered PS5s from Walmart in August who still haven't been able to pick theirs up, even though there are people who ordered them in September who were able to get them. It's just getting absolutely crazy at this point. Like, honestly, I feel like by the time things get sorted out with the PS5, it's going to be moving on to the PS5 Slim and PS5 Pro, and the second all these people who still can't get PS5s by like 2023 finally get one, Sony's going to do like a new state of play or something like that, and they're going to be like, yep, all of our PS5 users love the PS5 so much, they're having a great time with games like God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West and Spider-Man 2, but the best place to play all of these games is the PlayStation 5 Pro, and that's where they're going to reveal it, and everyone's going to be like, but I just got a PlayStation 5. And they're announcing the PS5 Pro? At this point, it seems like that's where we're quickly approaching. But honestly, I feel like your cutoff point for buying a regular PS5 is like fall of next year. If you can't get one by then, I would just start trying to make sure you get a pre-order for the PS5 Pro. And I mentioned my personal way to get these things that just works every time for me. It's worked with the Switch, it's worked with the Switch OLED, it's worked with the PS5, it's worked with the Series X, all the way back to the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. All you do is just very diligently make sure you're there for the first pre-order Amazon has available. Every time this has worked for me. I just sit there. They're always a little late, maybe 10-15 minutes late, but if you get in, you have enough time usually to just add one to your cart and check out. And when you check out, it doesn't actually charge you then. It just says, all right, you have a pre-order placed and we'll charge you when we ship the console. It's great. It helped me out when I was in college and I bought my first PS4. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough money right away to pay for this when I pre-order it, and I definitely didn't, but it didn't charge me. And the way that I was able to pay for my first PS4 was I traded stuff in at GameStop. I bought Amazon gift cards with the trading credit at GameStop, and then I applied those to the pre-order of the PS4. And by the time it came out, I only had to pay like 20 bucks. So there's ways to get it if you're looking for something new. But yeah, other than that, make sure you're following at StayPSReady on Twitter, because I try to retweet every store I see that's currently selling PS5s. And if you don't believe me that Sony is already working on the PS5, maybe this job listing will convince you. So over in Europe, Sony actually put up a job listing for a job working on the next PS5. The job listing is for the Advanced Technology Group department, and I guess that department of Sony works on GPUs, and it says directly that it's working on a more advanced version of the PS5, which to me says that they're probably pretty early on in the development cycle on it, but since it's an iterative machine, they'll probably have it ready to go, I would guess, honestly, late next year, or at the very least, late 2023. I don't think we're gonna be waiting much longer than 2023 to see the PS5 Pro. Now, when you look at the PS5, it's still a very powerful machine, and we haven't really gotten any games that push it to its limit just yet, which is good, because if a PS5 Pro does come out, Sony's still gonna definitely support the launch PS5. But there's some things I think they could improve on with a Pro model of the PS5. Firstly, they could start out with an increase to the internal storage. Now, right now you get 825 gigabytes on the PS5 out of the box, and you can of course expand that, but those SSDs are pretty expensive. You're gonna be paying at least an extra 100 and 140 bucks just to get a new SSD that'll work inside your PS5. And if you consider that a lot of people are turning to scalpers and paying 700 or more for their PS5, that quickly becomes the cost of a PC, you know? Like, you're getting to a crazy amount of money you're spending on your console. So if Sony can get the retail price of a console with a bigger SSD in it down to the same price or a little bit more than what people are paying MSRP for the PS5 right now, that'd be awesome. I feel like if they come out with a PS5 Pro and it costs around 600 bucks, that's gonna feel expensive, but people who want the best are gonna pay for it, and then the PS5 Slim could cost somewhere around 500 again. But if they really want to be cool, they'll drop both of those by 100, charge 500 for the PS5 Pro, and then charge 400 for the PS5 base, or PS5 Slim. Whatever you want to call it, they'll charge 400 bucks for it if they're cool. Obviously, a size reduction would be incredible. We know that the PS5 is really good at cooling because of its massive 120mm fans, but as time has gone on, they've figured out how to cool it better passively with the new heatsink that Austin Evans and I discovered. So they're already doing iterations that could theoretically make the whole device smaller. So obviously, I hope the PS5 Pro is at least just a little bit smaller than the current PS5. I know when you jump from the launch PS4 to the PS4 Pro, it wasn't that much bigger on the PS4 Pro side. I understood why it was bigger, but still, when you compare the size of that console to the PS4 Slim, it just had an extra stack on top of it. So they did a good job there. What I'm saying is the PS5 Slim is definitely going to be a lot smaller, but I hope they can figure out how to make the PS5 Pro smaller as well. And then the last thing I guess I would want out of a PS5 Pro is just true native 4K 60 in games. We have a ton of games that give us checkerboard upscaled 4K. We've seen a ton of them do that. We have a couple games that are native 4K, but I just want that to be the standard. 4K finally seems like it's getting to the point where it's as ubiquitous as 1080p was back in the day when the PS4 came out. So honestly, guys, I feel like if we get a PS5 Pro, they can finally deliver on that actual 4K promise we got all the way back with the PS4 Pro. You know, it's been that long. It's crazy. It's time to give us 4K 60. Anyway, guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today. Make sure you let me know what you want out of a PS5 Pro down in the comments, and remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.